Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name's Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, this has been a great World Cup so far. I think it's had it all. Underdogs coming on top, spectacular goals and tense moments regarding penalty shootouts. So for me, let's lay the foundation and recap with what took place in the group stages. It feels like a long time ago, but it's only right as we're going to review the last 16 and also preview the upcoming quarterfinals that are coming up. So let's talk about Group A. So no surprise with the final group standing, with Netherlands coming on top, Senegal second, Ecuador third, and Qatar fourth. For me, it was expected in terms of Netherlands coming at the top of the group. They didn't produce many eye-catching performances, but I think for me, one player that stood out from the crowd was Cody Gakpo. I think his stock has just gone up since the World Cup, probably a couple of O's in terms of his transfer fee because there's a lot of clubs after his signature, and I'm sure there will be more interest in the upcoming January window. And he was playing a different role to what he normally does for his club at PSV, where he's predominantly a left-sided winger for Holland or Netherlands. He plays as a striker with a strike partner, so that gives him the freedom to play with more creativity, but also showcase his shooting ability, which he did. I can't remember which game it was, but he scored a spectacular goal hitting the top of the roof of the net. So for me, Senegal, despite being without their talisman Sadio Mane, they've done really well in the competition so far. They've showed their quality. A young team that's very hard to break down. So in terms of Aliou Cisse, his tactics, he's deployed them very well. Ecuador showed a good account of themselves, beating the host in the opening game and drawing against Senegal. Great effort from the South American side, but unfortunately they were placed third. The host, Qatar, unable to notch a win, unfortunately. But despite that, I think being part of the World Cup on home soil is a very special moment for the Qataris, and I'm sure they're very proud in terms of hosting the World Cup. One thing that annoyed me personally at the beginning of the World Cup was the controversy around political issues with human rights and the big debate about wearing the armband. For me, this was a blatant agenda against Qatar, being an Islamic country. If people have such strong views against the laws and rules of the country, for me, they shouldn't be part of the competition. They shouldn't be there. Whether you're a player or you work for the media, don't be involved if you have such strong opinions about this sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's one of those ones. I feel like it spoke at the beginning, especially the first couple of days of the competition. There was no talk about the sport. There was more about human rights, this, and we should wear the armband. But, end of the day, this is a competition of sports. So I feel like the agenda for me, was just quite obvious. Just because there's laws in the Western world doesn't mean it's universal. So it's not something that you can come to another person's country and disobey how they live their life. If you go to someone's house, for example, you don't just do what you want at their house. It's their house, it's their rules. It's the same in the country. You respect where you are. So for me, the World Cup is such a special sporting event. It brings people from all walks of life to enjoy the sport we all love. So very disappointing to see in terms of the perception we had regarding these issues, as every country has their own issues. So I don't think this should have been the talk of the town, especially for the opening game where the excitement was about the competition, but unfortunately got taken away. But thankfully, as the games have gone on, it's been more about the football. So in regards to that, let's get back to the football. So Group B, England, for me, again, no surprise that they topped the group. They were first, USA was second, Iran were third, and Wales were fourth. The only surprise for me was the goalless draw against America for England. I think they were never in danger of not qualifying for the last 16, but you would have expected them to at least have beaten the Americans there. US, on the other hand, I think they've definitely surprised a few people. I always knew they had some good young players in their team, but they've literally showcased their talent. People like Musa, who plays for Valencia. You've got Reina. Pulisic has definitely shown his form as well. George Weah's son as well, George Weah Jr. So they got the important win against Iran on the last match. Iran, for me, would probably be disappointed in not qualifying into the next round. The game with the USA was the perfect opportunity to progress, but I guess it wasn't to be. Wales, on the other hand, for me, were below par and just didn't turn up. Overly reliant on Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, who, let's be honest, great players, but not the same level as they used to be in previous years. So overall, congrats to USA. I think they've done really well to come out of the group there, and England, no surprise in topping the group. Just got a comment here from Madison Smith. With Juventus' recent problems, do you think any of their players will be moving in January? That's an interesting one. I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. I think players that come to mind would be Vlahovic as well, who was very sought after last year. Maybe Arsenal would be interested in a player like that due to the fact that Jesus is currently injured now. So a striker is definitely on their cards in recruitment for the next window. So maybe he would appeal to a few players or a few clubs, I should say. I think in terms of the rest of the squad, I know they've got Bremer, who's a good, solid centre back. He just joined in August, so I don't think there'll be a huge sort of overhaul within the club. Next summer might be a different story if their problems continue. So you never know. I think with the window set to open in a few weeks' time, we'll be talking about a lot of rumours. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Especially if Arsenal are looking for a player, I'm sure Vlahovic will be top of the list in my opinion. So back to the group stages. So Group C. So we've got Argentina who are first, followed by Poland, Mexico, and then Saudi Arabia. So now, let's keep it honest. The first match of the group, for me, shook the world, and many people stood up afterwards because I think the political issue that I mentioned earlier on, that was behind everyone, and people started paying attention about the football now. So what result from Saudi Arabia beating Argentina? Definitely one of the biggest surprises in World Cup history. The second goal from Al Dasari, who is a player that I mentioned in one of my reels that I did on Instagram with ones to watch, um, scored a spectacular goal. What a finish it was. The result for me, World Cup Argentina, and they won back-to-back matches to claim top spot in the end. Poland just about sneaked through on goal difference. I think their defense definitely saved them on that regards. Unlucky for Mexico, who I predicted to have at least finished second, but it wasn't to be, I guess. Saudi Arabia may not have qualified in the last 16, but they've left us with a very memorable moment of this World Cup beating Argentina. So, I think the players were rumored to get a Rolls Royce each. So hopefully they actually end up getting that because the perception might have changed afterwards. It's got another comment here from Madison Smith. US needs to develop a strike in the next 4 years. Midfield was good, the defense was better, but they weren't good enough in the final third. That's an interesting one. Shed some kind of light. Is there any players that you feel like can kind of break into that fold in terms of being that next big star in America? Because I think you're right. You have a lot of great wingers. I would say midfield. Musa for me is very impressive in terms of how he plays. You've got Reina as well from Dortmund. You've got Pulisic. So yeah, they've got some good talent there. Yeah, interesting to see. You never know. I feel like MLS is probably one league that I haven't really looked into. So maybe there's a hidden gem there that could break the mold and help US in the future. So, but it's a good team, to be honest with you. It's probably the strongest American team I've seen for a very long time. So definitely a lot of up and coming talent coming through. Your second comment here, defense was better, excluding the Netherlands game. Yeah, Netherlands game was just different. I think Van Gaal played it very well in terms of tactically. press from the front, and kind of push the defense line a bit further back. So it was very difficult to counter attack a strong team like Holland there. So, but yeah, I don't think there's no shame in terms of how USA performed. I think they definitely showed a good account of themselves in this World Cup. So let's get into the next group, Group D. So France topped the group, which for me was no surprise. Many people expected Denmark to be the team to lead the way. Not for me. I thought, despite the injuries that France have suffered before the World Cup, they have enough quality in the bank to do damage in this World Cup. Australia may have been the surprise package. They came second. Tunisia third. That was definitely a surprise. So, like I mentioned, there's a lot of talk with France missing big players like Kante, Pogba, and Kuku, who's unfortunately got injured during training. But there's so much talent in that French squad. I knew they would have no problems going through. Giroud was a man on a mission, trying to break the record of being France's all-time top scorer, which he equaled in the group stages, but we now know eclipsed that in the last 16, which I will talk about in more detail later on. But Mbappe, for me, has been the star of the tournament. His overall play has been breathtaking. He looks like a player that's on a different level above everyone else. Biggest surprise, like I mentioned, was Denmark. Many people tipped them to top the group. Disappointing campaign from them. I expected better in terms of how they performed because they've got some good young players in their squad. Speaking of surprises, Australia qualifying was definitely one, beating Tunisia and Denmark. But what an amazing achievement for the Aussies there. The other surprise, there's a lot of surprises in this World Cup with the underdogs, and that becomes apparent here with Tunisia beating France in the last match. At one point, I feel like France may have just nicked an equalizer in the final moments of the game, but VAR ruled it out. It was a Griezmann goal for offside. So I was happy for the Tunisian people. You could see the joy and happiness in the crowd, which was beautiful to see. This is why we play football. This is why we watch the game, which is why we love the sport. So a beautiful moment there for the Tunisian people there. Group E, this was definitely a surprise. Japan, to be fair, not a surprise for me. I did think Japan would be a surprise team in the World Cup, and they definitely lived up to the bill. But they topped the group. Spain came second, Germany third, and Costa Rica fourth. Now, for me, Japan topped the group in great fashion, beating Spain and Germany. For me, not a huge surprise. I've reviewed the Japanese squad, and they've got some great players, with great technique, a lot of technicians in their team. So for me, that was evident in terms of the way they played. The manager was a very adventurous coach in terms of playing attack football. The first game he deployed like 4 or 5 attackers. So it was quite a bit of a refreshing perspective to see from a manager. Spain ripped Costa Rica apart with a 7-0 victory. That result probably put Spain back into the frame in terms of being one of a lot of people like Gary Neville said before the first game that they will struggle for goals. His takes on certain things in the World Cup has been woeful. So even by his standard, it's been pretty awful. But with him, you got to take a bit of pinch of a salt and listen to his comments because they're not always breaking news to us or they're not gospel to us. It's just another person's opinion in my view. The Germans, for me, they got humbled by Japan. And to be fair, I'm glad they got eliminated. For me, they jumped on that PR bandwagon to disrespect the people of Qatar with the whole armband issue. They never made a stance about the LGBTQ before. So it's ironic that it was presented to them in the World Cup because it was such a talking, sort of like a spoken topic at the time. So yeah, for me, they got what they deserve in that regards. But back to the football, congrats to Japan and Spain for progressing. I think Japan definitely impressed a lot of people in this World Cup so far. Group F, you've got Morocco first, Croatia, and then you've got Belgium third, and then you've got Canada coming last. What an achievement for Morocco as the first African team to top the group, and did it in style, beating Belgium and Canada Regarding Belgium, for me, that golden generation is over. They looked very sluggish in their games. Roberto Martinez also confirmed that he'll be stepping down as manager. So unfortunate end to their era, I would say. But they never really capitalized. They had such great talent, but kind of like the golden era of the England team. They never did. They never achieved much anyway. So maybe there was too much hype surrounding these players, too much pressure. Who knows? Croatia were able to claim second place, and Canada were placed bottom, but showed a great fight in their encounters. So no harm done in terms of how they performed so far in the World Cup. Group G, Brazil came first, Switzerland second, Cameroon third, and Serbia fourth. No surprise as Brazil topped the group, winning their opening games, but the defeat in the hands of Cameroon on the last match broke their 100% record, and it was a great moment for Cameroon. The mighty Brazil, they may not have qualified for the next round, but I'm sure that victory would bring a lot of satisfaction to the Cameroonian people. So, yeah, definitely a special moment for Cameroon there. Switzerland did enough to claim second spot after beating Serbia on the last match, and Serbia were fourth in the end. Group H, kind of regarded as the group of death because there were so many strong teams here. So Portugal came first, along with South Korea second, Uruguay third, and Ghana were fourth. This was a great group, to be fair. A lot of good games here. Portugal topped the group and looked really solid in their matches. South Korea definitely surprised a few people, especially beating Portugal in the last match was the defining factor in them getting qualification. I've mentioned before, the World Cup has been so unpredictable. The smaller footballing nations have defined the odds, and personally, I love it because you'll get skeptical views from certain fans. They're like, "Oh, why are these teams even in the World Cup? They're not good enough." But the thing is, you can't just dismiss teams based on reputation. This is what helps the nation go to that next level by participating in the World Cup, getting a win or getting a draw. It just gives them optimism for the future. So, who said that there's certain countries that should be there, like Italy should be there, but they didn't qualify. So you only do well in terms of what's in front of you. And I feel like the small nations do deserve some respect because it's not been easy to qualify for the World Cup. They've had to play a lot of games. They've had to play playoff games. So if they've not done well, it's because there's a lot of high quality teams there, but they deserve to have some respect on their name in regards to that. For me, another Asian team going through, which was fantastic to see. The big game that had some element of history was Ghana versus Uruguay, with the infamous Suarez incident that took place 10 years ago. Uruguay were victorious in this game, but it wasn't enough for them to progress into the next round. Ghana, for me, underperformed severely. I think out of all the African teams, I believe they had the strongest squad. So quite disappointed in terms of how they performed. I think the manager, he didn't have his tactics spot on, deployed a very cautious approach. He had players like Suleimana, who's someone I mentioned to look out for, only played that in the last game, but he's one of their young prospects that's really going to, not shock the world, but he will definitely raise a few eyebrows in the future. Don't be surprised to see a player like him in the Premier League. You had Mohamed Kudus as well, who did really well. So they've got some great talent coming through. But in the end, the Ghanaian fans, they were celebrating in style despite losing to Uruguay. A bit shameless in terms of celebrating someone else's defeat, but hey, I guess you're entitled to celebrate how you feel. And I think they took a bit of enjoyment in terms of Uruguay not progressing. So it is what it is in that regards. So that was Group H. So that was the group stage wrap up. So let's quickly review the last 16. So the first game, as Madison mentioned earlier on, Netherlands versus the USA. Netherlands were victorious, obviously, in this encounter. I don't think they were really troubled in this game. I know America had a few chances in the first, but they looked quite comfortable. I think the tactics were spot on from Van Gaal. Memphis Depay scored a fantastic opening goal. Great team moves. There's like 20 odd passes for that goal. Danny Blind as well gets a second with his right foot. That's one for the collection, as I've not really seen him score with his right foot before. George Weah Jr. gets the consolation for USA, and Dumfries ends the tie with a great left foot finish. So, with Netherlands being victorious, they'll be facing Argentina, who narrowly beat Australia 2-1. And who opened the scoreline for Argentina? None other than the main man himself, Lionel Messi, with a great left-footed finish in the bottom corner. Man City's Alvarez gets the second goal for Argentina. Matt Ryan, don't know what he was doing, falling asleep or whatnot, losing possession, and Alvarez stealing the ball to hit the back of the net. Australia got the consolation goal after a wicked deflection. But credit to Australia, they really gave it their all. They definitely fought until the end, almost caused an upset as it was not a walk in the park for Argentina. But this gives us an exciting game in the quarterfinals with the Netherlands versus Argentina. Now, if I was to give my prediction, I think Argentina will just about edge it, but it's not going to be an easy encounter. I can see it concluded in extra time if I was to make a prediction. So let's see how that goes. The next game, France versus Poland, which concluded 3-1. This was simply the Mbappe show, in my opinion, but it was a special moment for Olivier Giroud. He opened the scoreline and broke the record of becoming France's all-time top goal scorer with 52 goals, I believe. So what an amazing achievement for a striker who I believe doesn't get the respect he deserves, but now he's in the history book, so no one can take that away from him. Mbappe's first goal, spectacular. Smashed in the roof of the net. By his second goal, what a goal it was. Smashed it top bins. Like I mentioned earlier on, he's on a different level to everyone else on the pitch right now. Lewandowski scores from the penalty spot to get the consolation goal for Poland. With France victorious, they'll now be facing England, who beat Senegal 3-0. So I was saying previous years, this match would have caused England a lot of difficulties due to the pressure of succeeding, but they've shown great courage and confidence so far in the competition. Senegal did have chances to take the lead in the first half, but it was my captain, Jordan Henderson, who opened the scoreline. Lovely assist from Bellingham, who's one of the shining stars, not for England, but I think in general in the World Cup. He's been fantastic so far. Great celebration from Bellingham and Henderson. Who knows? You could be looking at the new Liverpool midfield pair in 2023. That's the dream, but my gut feeling's telling me it could be a reality. So we'll see how that goes next summer. Harry Kane finally opens his goal scoring account for England with the second goal, and Saka gets the third goal. Lovely assist from Foden on the left hand side. So another exciting encounter. But unfortunately, I don't think he'll be coming home. I think Mbappe will steal the show and France will be victorious. But hey, I'd love to be proven wrong in this regard. So we'll see how it pans out in the next few days. The next game, Japan versus Croatia, which ended at 1-1, but went into penalty shootout where Croatia won 3-1. I personally was hoping for another upset and seeing Japan progress into the quarterfinals. They took the lead in the first half, so it was looking good for them. Nice volley from Maida. Croatia got the equalizer in the second half. Great header from Perisic. And it's the first penalty shootout in this World Cup. But I was disappointed with Japan's effort. They missed 3 penalties and just lacked any zip or venom in their shots. Croatia's Livakovic was the hero. He saved 3 penalties. But commiserations to Japan. They were certainly the surprise of the competition, but they showed their quality and excited to see how their future unfolds. They've got some good players coming through the ranks. So, no shame in losing to Croatia. Croatia, a very strong team. So it is what it is in that regards. Croatia will be facing the favorites, Brazil, who were rampant, to say the least, against South Korea. This one was the final scoreline. No holds barred. They demolished South Korea in the first half. Goals from Vinicius Jr., penalty from Neymar, Richarlison, and Paqueta as well. A lot of the people in the media complain about the nature of their goal celebrations. For me, I don't see it as a big issue. That's the Brazilian flair, that Brazilian samba in full flow. That's how they celebrate their goals. It's no different to previous years or previous generations. So why would it change right now? So if you can't accept it, maybe try hard and try and beat them on the pitch. You know, we're all from different cultures and different backgrounds. There's no point of like telling someone to celebrate the way you want to celebrate. They're entitled to do how they feel. South Korea probably scored the best goal of the match with a Paik Chung Ho's thunderbolt in the top corner. So yeah, it was a one-sided affair to say the least. I think in terms of the next round, Brazil will have too much firepower for Croatia, and I think they'll progress into the semi-final. So that's my prediction there. The last two games, Morocco versus Spain. So Morocco won 3-0 on penalties. But let's give Morocco some big credit here. They've been a revelation in this competition. They defended for their lives in this game, and they will refuse to be beaten. Spain, with all their tiki-taka football, weren't able to have a clear instinct in front of goal. And for me, that cost them, both in normal time and in the penalty shootout. There's, I don't want to say super sub, but the late sub that came on, Sarabia was very close to scoring in the last minute after hitting the post. But Spain were poor in front of goals for the penalty shootout. Luis Enrique ensured that his players were to convert 1,000 penalties in training in preparation for the World Cup. But you can't generate this sort of pressure and atmosphere in training. So in terms of the penalty shootout, Sarabia hits the post. Morocco's Bono was the hero as he saved 2 penalties from Soler and Busquets. But the winner came from Hakimi. He was actually, in fact, born in Spain, but he showed no remorse to his birth country as he executes a cheeky panica in the middle of the goal. Amazing celebrations from the Moroccan fans. The atmosphere in the grounds seemed to look like it was electric. I'm sure there were a lot of huge celebrations back here in London. I know there were a lot of packed out shisha bars. I probably should have joined them myself in the celebration. But in terms of Spain, they will feel disappointed in terms of not progressing as they had a lot of the possession. But it's the final scoreline that counts. And Morocco fully deserved to go through. They showed a great account of themselves. They defended well. They refused to be broken down. So huge credit in terms of how they've performed so far in the World Cup. And the final game, Portugal versus Switzerland, which concluded 6-1. Another big scoring game there. Big talking point was Ronaldo being dropped to the bench before the game. Was it due to form, or is he having issues with the manager? For me, I think it was down to tactics. And I think the manager preferred to play a different front line. His replacement, Goncalo Ramos, who plays for Benfica, certainly put his name on the map. At 21 years old, I believe he's the youngest player in World Cup history to get a hat-trick. And what a fantastic game he had. Pepe, God knows how is he, 39, 40 years old, gets on the score sheet with a bullet header from corner. Rafael Guerrero smashes one on the roof of the net. Man City's Akanji gets a tap in from the near post. But Rafael Leao has the last word with a ridiculous finish at the end. What a goal it was. So now Portugal will face Morocco in the quarterfinals. I would love to say that there's going to be an upset and Morocco will go through. But I think Portugal have too much quality and I think they'll edge it and they'll be victorious in the end. So that's my wrap up of the group stage and last 16. And that concludes the show for tonight. So thank you very much for tuning in. If you haven't already, or if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll be back next week to review the quarterfinal matches. Let's see how well my predictions are in terms of the outcome there. Really excited about the upcoming games. And I have to be honest, like I mentioned at the top of the show, this is one of the best World Cups I've witnessed. So I'm really intrigued to see how the next round unfolds. So until next time, guys, take care, stay safe, and I hope to see you all very soon. Good evening.